It's like you're crazy if an idea doesn't become successful, and you're genius if it does. Success is just that crazy idea that becomes something.
In 1992, a teenager in Atlanta had an idea. Terius Nash, a musically inclined 15-year-old, was grieving the death of his mother and would soon pour those emotions and energy into writing songs and pursuing a career in music. He would spend years in the local music scene working and networking, until finally, in 2002, he would secure his first placement for a major artist, B2K. A string of successful singles for other chart-topping artists would follow, but Nash still felt that he had more to offer. In an effort to showcase his range, in 2007, the behind-the-scenes hitman would step forward and introduce himself to the world as The Dream. Since then, Nash has crafted an unending stream of hit records and albums, scored a handful of Grammys, and become a trusted pen for superstars like Justin Bieber, Rihanna, and most recently, Beyoncé. And it all started with one idea.
How did your parents' professional life inform your career aspirations?
My mother, who I lost when I was 15 to cancer, I don't feel like her existence was professional. It was as a mother. So I learned in the end that there's no replacing that particular responsibility. You know, like, of course, she maintained 2 jobs, one being a waitress at one place while being a waitress at another place. And we both had my grandfather. My grandfather was a cement mason, and there's a lot of discipline to be learned in that space, and a lot of know-how, accountability, problem solving. You can't build a great building or an amazing skyscraper when the foundation isn't right. And it's transferable knowledge. How to write a great song, how to create a great piece of art that can become legend based on the foundational parts of it. You know, does the song make sense? Does the story make sense? I grew up with my grandfather, who was super critical about doing things that just made sense. And when you do something that doesn't make sense, it was definitely a super critical moment in my house growing up. By the time I think I was a teenager, like, I literally had gotten over my emotional senses of being criticized and understood that criticism is the only way to become, you know, better or great at something that you're doing.
Was there anyone around you in that sort of early formative time that opened your eyes to the possibilities of being a creative?
My best friend, who's still my best friend now, stayed right behind me. The house, he stayed on North Avenue. I stayed on Baker Road here. And he started playing trumpet, and he's 3 years older than I am. This guy got in the band. I want to get in the band. There were certain musical things I was attracted to that weren't recognizable to my grandfather or to my mother, because that's just how the house worked. There was a piano in the living room that was out of tune forever. And I remember my grandfather selling it around that same time, and I cried forever. He had no idea I was in love with this piano that sounded horrible. And so from that particular point, that's where my musical education started. And I came up with a formula maybe in my teens about writing songs that if it had no chance at being on Michael Jackson's album, then it's not a good song.
It's a pretty high bar for a teenager.
That's what the bar was. So
as a teenager, when you're making music, you were like, there was no aspiration for you to be...
No, as a teenager, I was in a singing group. It was 4 of us, and ultimately I ended up getting kicked out of the group.
Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to practice too much, so it was like, get your out of the group. It was just certain things, especially with my mom passing, that kind of put me in a situation where I didn't have that time to waste. So it made me annoying, I'm sure, to everybody that was around me, because they're like, yo, we just practiced yesterday. I'm like, practice again. They're like, no, we're not practicing today. We're going to the mall. We're gonna rock this new Tommy Hilfiger, and that's what we're gonna do. For me, I just wanted to practice, and do certain things and get myself out of the circumstance that I could feel innately that was gonna come. My grandfather's getting older, my mom has already passed, and I just wanted to be ready and try to not succumb to where I came from, which could have went completely left. I'm on the west side of Atlanta. When you get to a certain point in your life and your mortality kicks in and you're trying to think of what time you wasted. Oh, I could have did this thing, or how much can I get done and can I accomplish it before I pass away? And that came in the form of losing parents early on in life. And when you do that, you're pressed for time like your friends aren't. You're trying to figure out how to buy a washer and dryer at 18 and they're figuring out how to sleep on their mom's couch for the rest of for the next 10 years. And you got to do it. The cavalry isn't coming. Nobody's going to bail you out of whatever this thing is. You have to kind of run into that darkness the same way you run into the light. It's easier to run into the light, but the light is already exposed. You don't know what's in the darkness, so you have to go and get whatever the beautiful thing is out of it.
How did your mother, and not just her passing, but her life, inform your songwriting?
Oh, it's my superpower. My sight and feeling for the idea of womanhood, motherhood, women is connected in that thing. I'm able to write in that space because I probably feel it how one would probably not want to. It's irritating to myself. So when there's a re-thing happening, or especially, my sister B, when there's a thing happening, I get it. It's like, oh, I understand it. I understand it so much. I'm hunted with it. Like it's not a thing you can get rid of. I'm probably thinking more of you than I am of myself at that particular point in time, and thinking of, without hesitation, my daughter in a certain type of way. Period. Not just as, oh, father, because that's a father thing to do. It's like, no. Mine is different because of that connection with my mother and her having a certain outlook and being her same happy, dancing, singing self. And you're overlaying that with the idea that when that's not here, you want to see that same thing happen for the women in your life and women that you're around. So when those songs come out and you hear that connection that me and B are like twins, at this particular point in our lives, it's that, and it's me understanding what she's trying to say.
How old were you when you first had the moment of sort of cognition that you might have an extraordinary gift?
I think it was pretty late to know that it was extraordinary, by word. I think it was a sense of problem solving, to the idea that I could survive, having something that bothered nobody. I didn't need to use any other tools to get out of where I was. It was a violent city at that time, in my life growing up. Extraordinary was the last thing I was thinking about. You're just trying to make it out, and to be, a kid that didn't have to use any of those things. I didn't have to sell drugs. I didn't have to be violent, or I didn't have to take anything from anybody. It was a fortunate thing because there were good friends who were super good, had good hearts, that were just kind of forced into that space. Extraordinary didn't hit that it could be something better than just good until I was maybe 23, 24 years old, where I knew that I can do something blindfolded. Like, it wouldn't matter, and I'll be able to do it forever. It's not gonna stop. It would just stop if I wanted it. If I wanted it to. I feel like I'm innately doing exactly what I'm supposed to be doing.
Eager to make inroads in the industry, the Dream would soon connect with writing and producing partner Tricky Stewart, and the two would begin to carve their path. They'd place Umbrella with Rihanna in 2007, and Single Ladies with Beyoncé the following year, all while the Dream's own solo career was taking off, thanks to his effortless ability to drop back-to-back radio-ready singles.
I'm writing these songs that, though, put me in a predicament of not being understood from a musical standpoint, because there are songs that existed outside of what's going on right there, right then, even though I'm living what hip hop is. It's like, I know exactly what it is. I know what crack is. I see it everywhere. I know what guns are. There's a gun there. My grandfather had 1 billion of them. Like, it's the South. What I also understood, though, was what music making was. And it wasn't a place for it, which is kind of like commodities in a way. It's like, well, it doesn't matter whether you have all those oranges if nobody drinks orange juice. Like, it just doesn't matter. All of these things are just adding up in my mind of just be great. And then whoever's going to get it, just stick with it and get it. And certain things you write for certain people and certain things you just don't.
In those early days, before you had all of the plaques and the number ones,
When was that? No.
what was the role of salesmanship in being a songwriter?
I hate that part. I've seen it. I call that little producer thing they do. They play their beats and shit, and they're just like, oh, it's like, I want to make sure I wasn't that guy and didn't get caught up in it. I hate the over salesman shit. Like, I'm not good at it, and because I don't want to be.
Do you think that sort of led to a slower path to success for you?
Oh, probably, absolutely, if we're basing success without knowledge. Because you learn so much at a slow pace, you go fast and it's like, oh, I got 30 cars and I got $38 million, and I don't have 30 cars and $38 million, and it's a year later. 98% of the times, the faster the come, the faster the go. My grandfather was my biggest supporter. Such a contrasting individual. He was also the one that said I wouldn't make a dime out of the music business. What I heard was, you better be serious about what you're trying to do and not waste your time and other people's time, because here's a job. You want a job? You want to go ahead and pour some cement with me? That may actually be exactly what somebody needs to hear, because either you need to get your together or just find something else to do.
How did you end up meeting Tricky Stewart?
Atlanta's a small city, so everybody knows everybody. Everybody's being introduced to everybody. A couple of friends, one Rob Hunter and Vaughn, were like, yo, need you to go meet Trick. Tricky, blah, blah, blah. And Tricky was like, yeah, I mean, he cool, but he not all that. It was like, okay, cool. You know, me being the guy that takes criticism well. Trick actually is Laney Stewart's brother, who I signed my first publishing deal with. And I got my first real placement, which was Everything on B2K, based on that particular thing. And then, of course, Tricky's working across the hall, Laney's on one side. And, you know, just one thing, me and Trick never really worked as much together until like later on in that, close to, you know, Umbrella time period. You have Rihanna, this Umbrella record is going, and at the time, Ree was new to everybody. And I remember having that conversation with my team at that particular time. And certain people lean in certain ways, and I was like, nah.
People didn't want you to give her that record?
Because other people wanted the record, and rightfully so. They were bigger at the time. And I took a swing with the young kid, and that was Ree. I was like, nah, I want to know her. If I could change this girl's life with this song, that means the song is what the song is. And so that's what was going on in my head. And then it went from that, and then I did a record on Jay Holiday, which was Bed. And once I saw the reaction of like, oh man, we love this record, I was like, oh, I can make 10 of those like tonight. Like, this is nothing. And I remember calling. So I called my guy Los, like, get to the studio. Got a track, pulled the track. So Shawty's a 10 track. I went in and laid it immediately. Called Karen as soon as I walk out of the booth, maybe an hour later. Karen, I want to be an artist. She said, okay, let's do it. Shakir came by. Oh, this is a smash. Let's get it. Shakir took the radio. Him and LA's like, hey man, let's get this going. We had no idea what album I was gonna make. We didn't have a album. We didn't know how it was gonna sound. It's one record. My song was on the radio. I didn't even have a contract yet.
Really?
I hadn't signed nothing. Man, that's some handshake for you. Like, all right, well, record's going. Shawty's 10 is up. There's no contract on Dream. No doubt in everybody else's mind though that I'm gonna sign it. And then we asked Fab. Fab said, no problem. Another graceful and lucky things that happened. Versus astronomical. It's like, oh, this is amazing. The third thing that happened that was this beautiful thing was somebody called me and was like, yo, man, Jay's at the 40/40 club playing Shawty's a 10. At this time, me and Jay don't have that type of relationship at all. well, Umbrella as a thing. And I saw him lay the rap for the record, but not like, he don't owe me shit. It's like, yo, he's up here spinning your 40-40, like y'all cousins. I was like, oh, that's what's up. Forever grateful for that moment. So you have to do this. Well, in Atlanta, we have a way that you could tell whether a good idea is a bad idea, especially when you're thinking about songs. If nobody's dancing to that song, it's usually probably a bad idea.
What is the dynamic when an artist like a Beyoncé or Rihanna has a writing camp? Are people collaborating? Are they competing?
Everybody knows this is a thing.
You
say the word writing camp to me, I'm not coming.
Okay.
Doesn't mean that I haven't did it before. It's just been a long time. And I probably in my life have been in 2 writing camps. But
that's where Single Ladies came, right? Oh, I thought that was...
No.
It was competitive though, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh yeah. And these are the creme de la... These are the guys.
Who was there?
And it's Timbaland and Stargate. And it's me and Trick. They were already in New York working on B. And at this particular time, I hadn't worked on B at all yet, period. But I'm on tour with her husband, of course. I was opening up.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, so I'm on the road. Start in Miami, we go through the thing. And Jay's like, yo, I need a song for my wife. I'm like, okay. And I remember walking in, rocking the mic. It's like, I don't know who think they got the single in here, but I'm about to get that single. So everybody's like, oh, here you go. But mostly I'm like, hey, that's the pressure of, you better make Michael Jackson album. It better be that good. And so I'm like, all right, cool. Go ahead now, figure this out. I have no idea what I'm going to write at all. Single Ladies came promptly kind of right after that. And Trick is doing this thing. Just drums, period. Just drum, MPC, that's it. He didn't get that far. I'm not saying anything. I don't want to stop what he's doing, but he stops. He's like, I think I'm gonna go to another idea. Trick, what are you doing? He's like, oh, you like that? I was like, I have the whole song. I was like, all right, cool. Trick knows at that point, if I say that, all right, I go right into the booth. Cool Carell is there. Cool loads up the track. 78% of that song done down in one take. You know, I just go back and fill in certain things here and there. And I knew what it was because the room went from being me, Trick, engineer, B popped over, she listened, she's like, okay. Walked out, and then everybody started coming in. I said, yes, sir.
You've worked pretty extensively with Beyoncé and Rihanna, and both of them have put out records where you are contributing a number of songs, and there's other songwriters, but the albums always feel very uniquely personal.
I think it's just our life experiences, just period. Like we just the same way you talk to your friends. You know, I just do what I do as well as she does. You know, and having different perspectives and read the same thing. I remember being there when she lost her grandmother, and there's a record on that album that starts Mother Mary, and we talked, and I understood it. I know what that was already. I've already lived that, and I understand what it means to you, and the details will come from what it is about your life, because that's you. It happened to you. It's on your timeline. But the feeling, you know, I understand and I get.
If you want to write a single or a hit, do you think consciously about that at all?
Never have. I know that certain conversations in songs, because of songs, can be more widely accepted. So I know that talking about this particular thing, which is what 80% of people want to talk about, in my head is what a hit is, regardless of what Billboard says, regardless of whatever the things are, which is why you have cultural things that work. There's no Billboard for sweatshirts. There's a certain cut on a sweatshirt right now that we're like, that's the one I'm looking for. The hit is the oversized sweatshirt that everybody wants. You know, music is one of the most scrutinized, broken down places when it comes to that. And it doesn't mean that a thing isn't a hit. The hit in it may be how it's done. It may be things that you can't quantify. This is why they come up with different categories every now and then at Grammys. They had to try to figure it out. It's like, what category does Love versus Money fit into? Is it an R&B album? Is it rap? Is it pop? And they couldn't figure out one. Then they went to urban contemporary after me because it forced them into finding a space to put a certain type of record, right? Was I swinging to try to make something change or to do something? Like, no, I was just trying to make a great piece of art for 72 minutes.
You put out several very successful records on Def Jam, and then at a certain point you decided to go independent. What prompted that decision?
Back to my previous thing of saying, if you get it, we can do it together. If you don't know, I'm cool. I had to break something in order to build it. So it's the same thing with Dream overall. You get that 2011 period where you're like, no, I'm not gonna wait for you guys to tell me that no, he sucks. Like, no, I don't. Just to show you, I'm gonna take my ball and go to the house. I'm gonna put the ball so far up on the shelf, I'm probably not gonna play basketball for like 5 years.
Despite a successful run at Def Jam, it was time for a transition. So the multi-hyphenate released his 2011 album, 1977, on his own, Radio Killer, under his birth name, Terius Nash. 2 years later, he'd come back to Def Jam to complete his contract and end his obligation with 2013's Foreplay. Since going independent, he's deepened his creative pursuits, writing songs for films, collaborating with some of the biggest artists in music, and even going back to college to learn about the worlds of fashion and textiles, all while continuing to release more and more solo work.
So what prompted your decision to enroll in college and get into design?
I feel like fashion is the thing that you're just born into when you're in the hood. We didn't think of it as this is a thing you can get into and become completely successful at beyond your wildest, dreams. I kind of felt like I owed it to myself. I needed to know that, hey man, you're still as serious as you used to be. There's no other way to prove it than to say, all right, we'll see if you're gonna put yourself in college for 4 years. If you do that, then that means you're serious.
Would you describe yourself as a competitive person?
Absolutely. Yep. I don't mind losing though. I'm definitely competitive. I just want to get all of it out. I need competition, but a lot of that alone time, I think in the beginning, and realizing, or I guess getting past the idea that everybody's Beethoven. Nobody needs any help. And that's how I formed myself. If I need to do the beat, fine. If I need to produce the whole song, fine. It's great, and it's a blessing to have great producers around. But just in case nobody's there, I got to get it done. I have to engineer myself. Recently, Megan Thee Stallion record that her and B did, and we're in a pandemic. Nobody's at my house. It's me, the kids. Nobody there. Like, do you remember how to engineer? Of course I do. Space bar and 3, that records. Turn the mic on, which was probably one of my latest, proudest moments, in this thing of a lot of moments, which was, I recorded myself on the record that won a Grammy in the middle of a pandemic.
You're up for the Songwriter of the Year award. This is the first year the Grammys are having that award. Tell me, what's the significance of that achievement?
I think it's just great overall, not even for me personally, but that songwriters would be, looked at in a certain way that they just hadn't been looked at before. People are doing these top lines and giving the song structure and giving it a consistent idea of what it's saying, like throughout. Like there's a premise being created. We all deserve, for that part of it to be known.
In your career, you've had moments where you've been white hot and you've been the go-to guy for songwriting and production. And then you've had moments where you were not that guy.
That has never happened.
But I'm sure that there are times that the phone rings more than other times, right?
Some people have a taste for certain things. It doesn't mean the restaurant ain't cooking what they're cooking. So for me, I know better. And so the people I'm surrounded around know better. And they know there's no such thing as hot. And so your other is based on timing, luck. Again, when you write Umbrella, who you write it for. When does it come out? Is it the first single? Is it the second one? Is Single Ladies now? Is it this time? One of the records on the album was wrote 5 years ago or today? Does it mean you're in front and everybody else is behind? Or does it mean that you're hot? It's like, oh, well, actually, I just could be 10, 20 years in front of you. Just say, oh, just slow down a little bit and just wait. Just do your thing. And that's a great thing about songs. We pull a song from 10 years ago. Thick being one of them.
Thick?
Yeah.
How is 10 years old?
Probably to the date, as we sit here.
And it was just sitting on a drive somewhere?
B is her own hard drive. She remembers things that I have no idea how she does it. I don't know. I don't know how she remembers every step on stage, the same way I don't remember how she remembers every song that she records or starts to cut or even listens to. She'll say, hey, send me the files for that record. Like, what record? I don't even know what she's talking about half the time. She has to remind me, and I'm like, oh, yeah, that one.
Renaissance is almost like a concept album. It has its own totally unique sound, throwback to sort of 90s house.
Yep.
When you started working on those records, was that the mandate? Was there like, oh, this is what we're doing this time?
It's what you said, though, swinging for the fences, but not in an unnatural way. Whatever it takes, let's try to make something great. If it involves 9 people, great. If it involves 1, great. We know what the nucleus is. Like, somebody would be crazy to not know what the nucleus of the thing is. These greats of people are combining their thing to come into a space to say, hey, show me what you got. Let's be a band for this song. I never have writer's block. There's always something to write. Whether it's a love story or a horror film, there's always something to write.
What part of the process is the most gratifying to you?
Somebody mentioned to me, Mark Stewart, Tricky and Language brother, who's managed me for a while, the early part of my career. And we talk almost every other day. And he had a podcast he went on. And the guy was like, it's the craziest thing because you don't know when Dream wrote a certain record. Me and Mark was having a conversation about that. He's like, man, I'm not gonna know that he wrote this record. And I remember doing it on purpose. As at first I started this Radio Killer tag thing at the beginning. And then I said, I'm not putting that at the beginning of songs because either my song is great enough that you don't have to try to buy this one for me to sell you on the other one. Oh, this is my song. It says Radio Killer at the top thing. And I was like, And so the best part and feeling, which is what you're talking about, when a person finds out years from now, like, Love on Top, had no idea. That's the best part. They're like, yo, that's my song.
Do you have a record that you're most proud of?
Not yet. It's probably gonna come in the form of music and film in some type of way. I don't think that can be done in a 3-minute and 30-second cycle of what I would have in here to push out. You give me an hour and a half to make a story make sense? Oh, it's detailed, please.
Do you have a set of goals, or do these ideas just sort of keep presenting themselves and keep pushing you forward?
I think my goal is to be amongst all the things that I love. I love film, music, of course, duh. I'm at a height and has been at a height in a certain space of one of those. And so I know what that is. It's not about me wanting to, oh, you just want to do this because you can't. It's like, no, because I want to make sure I leave the tank empty. I don't want to 70 say, I wish I had the time I had when I, like, no, man. I need an opportunity to do a certain particular thing that I want to do, and I haven't had a chance to do that. And so there goes that clock ticking again.